on the airwaves here. Last time I checked, there was 13 people.
From last week?
Yeah, watched our video last week.
Hey all y'all.
Hi everyone.
Good.
Got my candy corns.
You'll be in let's see here, a contented person with your candy corn.
I am. Sugar makes me very happy.
There was one, I don't know if it was Borden's or somebody, that they said that their milk came from contented cows.
Yes, there's a commercial that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
You would hate to have it from.
Do not want an anxious cow
Yeah.
giving me milk.
Yeah, the anxious cow giving milk, it
No.
could be a problem.
Would be a definite problem.
That would be, that would be an issue.
For me.
Well, let's see here. Okay, this week we're, let's see here, we're gonna wrap up on page 16 and 17, and then maybe start lesson 2 on page 21, so, that'll be good.
We can do it.
We don't get too sidetracked.
We can't get sidetracked at all.
No.
In looking at these.
No.
You're just in the middle of a muddling mess here sometimes. Look out, wait.
Are you talking about our lesson or the people?
No, the lesson. You don't know if the candlestick's gonna hit you or what, you know?
Yeah. Last night I was looking around. I don't have cable TV, so I was looking around to see if there might be some movies worth watching. And I went to this streaming service called Tubi, T-U-B-I. And I was scrolling around, and most of the stuff I saw wasn't worth watching. But I found this one that said Faith. So I went down there and started scrolling across, and they had all kinds. They had like the Passion. They had Jesus Christ. It was like 3.5 hours.
Oh my goodness.
And I started watching Esther, and I got into it. And there was nothing really wrong with it. It's just that when you make a movie, and you got a book that's like 4 chapters long, they added a lot to fill in the blanks.
I bet they did.
And so I didn't continue watching it, but it wasn't. It looked good as far as, the actors, they were doing their part, and it was believable, and the parts, they had Mordecai and Esther and things like that. So, but they had others. They had Job, and they had Genesis.
Oh really?
So I might check out some of those others.
Do, and let us know.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
If you have streaming TV.
I don't know.
Well,
what
I think
have.
there's Tubi on Comcast Xfinity.
Okay.
I think. I'm gonna look.
Maybe there is. I
But
don't
do
know.
you
I don't have
that
Comcast.
too? I do, so that's why I'm asking.
I don't know what
Oh.
channel it'll be.
Oh, okay.
Just scroll down through the channel of the
Yeah.
400 or 500 channels you got and look
Yes.
for Tubi.
Well,
Scroll through all of those channels.
you can speak into your remote, your Xfinity remote, and say, "Show me."
Oh, can you? Okay.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. I thought
If
just
you
said
have
you-
that kind of remote.
Well,
if you
I
have
can-
a newer one.
I don't have a newer one, I'm sure. I can get the channel,
But
like
it's been a
channel
while.
13,
Yeah.
and it'll
Yeah.
put it on.
But yeah, you can say, "Show me ABC" or "Show me Tubi" or "I wanna," or "Show me," and you name a movie,
Yeah.
and it will show you if it's something that you can watch for free or how much they would charge you to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yeah, I can do.
start watching it,
I can do that with my Roku remote.
which I
so,
like.
So I get.
I never pay for any. I only
Oh,
do
yeah.
the free ones.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Well,
would
Tubi's
too.
free. It
Okay.
has ads.
Okay,
But
it's
it's-
Tubi.
T-U-B-I.
TUBI. I know I've seen that.
Okay.
So, but like I say, I don't have cable
Yeah.
TV. I just have the internet, and I have a
Right.
Roku streaming player,
It
And,
seems to work for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a whole lot cheaper than
Mhm.
cable.
Yeah, cable's
Free's hard to beat.
Mhm.
free is definitely hard to
Definitely.
Of course, you have to have internet, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you have internet, it works. It works for me.
Mhm.
Generally, I watch, like yesterday, I watched 4 different bike races. So,
You watch bike races?
oh yeah,
They're exciting.
they sure are.
I guess so. That one where the lady came out and whacked everyone.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often,
I
but
hope not. But that would be exciting.
but bike races, yeah, you get to see. Like yesterday, I was in Luxembourg, Slovenia. Let's see here, where was it? France, and someplace else. Where else was I? But it's one of the nice things about the bike race is, in addition to the bike race, you see all this countryside, the country, because they go on. But they also go in cities too, so
Okay.
through little towns, bigger cities, things like that. So, yeah, I subscribe to this streaming service called Global Cycling Network. And
It's just bicycle races?
bicycle racing. That's bicycles, all kinds of different bicycle races. This week the World Championships is on. Today it's men's road race time trials. Not my favorite, but I can watch it. There's an American from Houston that's participating, Lawson Craddock. He's from Houston.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. So
And where is this again?
it's in Belgium.
So you have to take all of your gear and stuff, your bicycle and,
Oh yeah. Well,
That's
he has a
expensive.
home. He has a
Oh,
place that he
okay.
lives in.
okay.
I don't know for sure, but a lot of bicyclists live in Girona, Spain.
Why?
It's
Really?
it has real good training area, roads around it, and the climate is good.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
well, anyway,
Okay.
let's we got our lesson material here. Our clock is really, it needs help. I someday I'll remember to bring a battery. I think it needs. I think it needs.
It's dead.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's still moving, but it's certainly not right.
It's tired. It's tired. So, well, before we begin here, why don't we have a word of prayer? Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for all the blessings we have. Time to have a class together. Be with those of us that are here together, and lift up those that are not here. Anybody that happens to watch our video that we record. Continue, Lord, to help us as we begin. Continue the introduction to the book of Revelation. Give us insight and wisdom and discernment as we go through this. Amen. All right. Well, on page, we were looking at the outline, and I think we got to the top of page 16, which was chapter 12. Now, hopefully, everybody got if you were behind, you had an opportunity to go ahead and fill those in. So, like chapter 12, 1 through 14:20. What did you come up with a heading for that?
The woman, the child, and the dragon.
Okay.
The beast from the sea and the earth, and the 144,000.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I put Israel is protected and Satan comes to the earth.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, here's what for the big section, 12:1 to 14:20, I put down the dragon. Then 12:1 through 17, I said, woman, Michael defeats dragon. And then 13:1 through 10, I put down the first beast, second beast, lamb and 144,000, 3 angels' messages, and harvesting earth. Now, I came up with a blank at 15:1 through 16:21. Help me out there. What should I put there?
I put the 7 angels with the bows of wrath.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I put bold judgments.
Okay. I guess if I looked at what I did on some of these that I couldn't figure out the big one, I would fill in the little ones and then
Go back.
back. I don't know if that was allowed or not. I didn't see that in the rules.
No rules, everything's right.
I think, I
Think
think
that's
you
okay?
would be okay to do
Yeah,
that,
on this.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I was okay. Well, so,
You're okay.
well, 15, 1 through 8, I said the 7 last plagues, and then 16, 1 through 21, God's wrath.
Mhm. Oh,
Yep.
yeah, I got the bowls of God's wrath poured on the earth.
Uh-huh. Then 15, 1, oh no, never mind. 17, 1 through 19, 5, I couldn't get that one either. I guess,
I put the Scarlet Woman and the fall of Babylon.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. What'd you have for 17, 1 through 18?
The woman sits on the beast and rules the world.
Okay.
What did you put?
Well, I just did the main,
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
main. I haven't filled in the little lines.
The one below that I had Babylon falls,
I have that.
and then 19, 1 through 5, heaven rejoices.
Got that.
Okay, then 19, 6 through 22, 5, again, I didn't put anything in there, but I
Oh.
guess,
I put Jesus appears. His kingdom will be for 1,000 years. I
Mhm.
guess this is after this is his return.
okay,
I'm guessing. I don't know
Okay.
what y'all put.
I put heaven exalts over Babylon and Satan bound 1,000 years.
Yeah,
All
the
things new.
1,000 years, yeah.
uh-huh, okay. Well, here's what I put for the sub ones there. I said, multitude cries out, and then rider on white horses, 11 through 21.
Mm-hmm.
21 through 6, I said 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
7 through 15, Satan is doomed, dead or
Mhm.
judged.
Mm-hmm.
And then 21, 1 through 22, 5, new heaven, new earth, new
Mhm.
Jerusalem,
Mm-hmm.
The
The river
news.
of life too.
new life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. And then I didn't get the last one there, the big one, 22, 6 through 21.
I put the time is near,
Uh-huh.
and let me see if I can read my writing. Believers are blessed.
Okay,
I don't know what I meant there.
yeah. Do you have one there, Betty?
River of life.
River of life.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That would
Larry,
do.
what'd you put for the last
I
one?
did have
Which
river.
one is you, are you looking
22, 6 through 21.
at? I put paradise restored.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
one.
That's good.
And you know, sometimes we don't think of that, that
Mhm.
the book of Revelation, this loops back to Genesis in some respects, in that we go back
Yes, it does.
to the Garden of Eden and unspoiled.
Yeah.
So we
True.
return to that. Sometimes that's lost. Well, on the next page there, page 17, question 5. From your first reading in Revelation, what would you say the book is about?
I put the future, salvation of those who believe, eternal doom for the lost.
Okay. All right.
What y'all put?
It's basically.
Well, that sure is gloomy.
What'd you put?
No,
What'd you put?
oh, for that entire question?
5.
Okay, it said, the book is about, it's a revelation of Jesus. And, then I wrote, we're given chance after chance and another chance for salvation.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing I did, which I thought was most important, is we win.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've heard that. Well, here's what I put down.
Okay.
The, what would you say the book is about? Good versus evil.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big theme that I come up with.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says, what's its major message? And I said, believers join God in a new life, and Satan does not prevail.
I said Jesus is victorious.
There.
Christians win.
Hopefully you read this study skill application here. It says, a blessing is offered to those who not only read Revelation, but take to heart what is written in it. That's in chapter 1, verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
And keep the lessons it teaches. See 22:7. Therefore, the last step of every study of this book should always be to ask yourself, what difference should this passage make to my life? How should it make me want to think or act? So those, when we read the Bible, those, whether it's Revelation or any other passage, that's what we should think is what difference should this passage make to my life, and how should it make me want to think or act? Well, number 6 here it says, did your first reading suggest anything that you would like to take to heart and act on during the coming week? That's a follow-up to this study skill.
Mm-hmm.
And if so, what is it, and what do you plan to do about it? So you don't necessarily need to tell us about that unless you want to, but so our
Well, the thing that struck me about the most from what I read that was something that I ought to work on more is to not be lukewarm. That Jesus spews you out of his mouth if you're lukewarm.
Yeah. You think if you compare that to, okay, we're thinking about lukewarm. We have, every church has some of these, sadly, but we have what I would call the pew sitters.
Mm-hmm.
They fill a pew, but that's about all they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need people that are, as James says, we need to have faith, but you also need to express that faith with works, and not just say I've got faith, but then you don't have any evidence to the outside world that you have any. So I think that's something that we need to think about. All right, page 18. That's some more instructions for us, like worship, warm up. You know, so far we haven't had any trouble with warming up, but later this week we might have that trouble when it cools down some, maybe. How to use this study, reading, introduction, first impressions, and application. So that's what we wrapped up there. And then wrap it up. And then worship. Many groups like to end with singing and or prayer. So we're not into the singing part, but we do try to end with prayer. Well, did anybody get into the first part of lesson 2? We're looking at Revelation chapter 1, verses 1 through 20. I like this introduction where it says, imagine yourself as a member of a tiny embattled church. Actually, for the Methodist Church, that's not hard to do. You know what the average membership of the United Methodist churches are?
238.
How much?
238
238 what?
members.
I was going to say 50.
50.
Yeah.
50.
That's
The average is
Wow.
only 50.
50.
50 people. Well, we have more than
How do
that.
they pay the
We're
light
above
bill?
average.
We are above average, and our church is small.
Mm-hmm. Well, not by that standard.
Whoa.
So, what were you saying, Larry?
50 members, how do you pay the light bill? Because
Well-
normally in a building that needs extreme heating and cooling facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Good question.
They might
Good question.
do without some of those
There may be
things
some,
in some parts of their buildings.
yeah. Some of those may be one room church buildings, and the members bring firewood for winter, and in the summer they're
I'll bring
outside.
the cleaning against those.
Now, if you think there are more small churches than
Oh,
there
yeah.
are large churches.
Mhm.
Oh, by far.
There's lots of small churches
Yeah,
across
there's-
Texas. Oh my gosh.
You
Little
go-
Methodist churches in every town. There's a little bitty Methodist church. I always like to go through every town and look for the Methodist church.
Yeah.
And look at it and see who the pastor is, you
Mhm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
see if it's somebody I recognize the name, but there's lots of little bitty churches.
Yep, a lot of little bitty churches. Some of them, we have, well, for instance, in the Texas conference, there's several pastors that serve several churches
Right.
on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
That's like the church that I grew up in Zanesville. The pastor there actually serves 2 churches. So she has a worship service at 10 o'clock, and then she has another one at 11 o'clock or something. Maybe it's 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock or something like that. So one's on the south, or towards the southern part of Zanesville, and the other one's on the northern part. So
It has that spirit of the circuit rider
Uh-huh.
and that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Wesley would be proud.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have, on my father's side, there are, a long time ago, some of them were circuit riders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My grandmother,
How much territory could they cover?
depends on how good their horse was.
I would imagine not in the best of shape.
Well, I don't know. The horse gets a lot of exercise. As long as they feed him,
They feed him.
he's okay. Yeah, my grandmother went to a church, but it was a free Methodist church. But they had their membership. 50 would have been a huge crowd
Mm-hmm.
for them on a Sunday morning. It was usually 30 to
Wow.
40. And but free Methodists are somewhat different. Also, it says false and unscrupulous teachers are splitting your congregation. Imagine that.
Is that still going on with the split within the
Yes.
United Methodist Church? When is it going to be resolved, or
Hopefully
is
next year.
it's going to be that long before they come?
Well, they
to-
haven't been able to have a required general conference to vote on it because
of COVID. I guess.
because a lot of delegates from overseas cannot
Yeah.
travel,
That's right.
and they didn't want to have a virtual like they did before. So the plan is hopefully that the delegates from other countries can come, and so that we can have a general conference. Actually, it'll be held in 2022, but it's
Okay.
really it's really a continuation from the conference that was supposed to happen in 2020.
That's what I thought, that it
Yeah.
was, last year or something.
Yeah.
Can the Methodist Church actually split
Oh yeah.
because of this?
Yeah.
And what will happen will it become another denomination?
Yeah. If this passes, though, there'll be as it stands right now, there's going to be at least two different denominations. There'll be the United Methodist Church, which is the
Traditional?
no,
No.
that'll be the progressive,
Okay.
and then there'll be the Global Methodist Church, which is the traditional.
Okay.
So
All right, the progressive believes in all of these liberal philosophies, right?
Mhm.
But they're not scriptural.
No.
don't confuse them with that.
Don't confuse them with scripture.
Yeah.
Does it tell you something about progressive, the word progressive?
Well, right, it does, but why do they still want to be a church if they don't believe in scripture?
Because they, I guess, think that they have a better interpretation of it, a more correct interpretation, belief. Their pillars that hold up their world are different. So, but that's as it stands right now. That's
what's going to happen.
that's the direction it looks like it's going to go.
It's going to split.
Basically, they pick and choose the scriptures they want to believe and the ones that they can just put aside. Well, that one is irrelevant now, or, doesn't apply to us
Yeah.
now. That
Their
one-
circumstances were different than ours.
Right.
So, each church, individual church, will have to decide which one it's going to go with. Is that how it will work?
That's supposed to be the way it works. There's been some
Wow.
over in the Georgia, I think it's the North Georgia Conference. The bishop there has the largest church in that conference. The pastor, former pastor, was outspoken that he planned, or he was going to ask his church to join the Global Methodist Church. So the bishop decided that it was time to relocate him.
The bishop is progressive.
Yeah. Many bishops are.
Oh my gosh. Haven't they read the Bible?
Apparently they're just the same as the,
They interpret it another way.
and then there was the largest church in the conference, I don't remember the name of the conference, but in New Jersey, there was a Korean Methodist church there. And the pastor, again, was outspoken against the progressive split, and so the bishop moved him too, to a small little dinky church someplace.
One of the churches here in Houston is already split.
Yeah, that was the Berean church. They disassociated at the conference, just annual conference in May, because of that.
I'm sorry, I have a
That's okay.
question
Okay.
that bothers me. Okay, so your church is split, and so it's decided that you'll be one or the other. Who gets the building?
Well, that's one of the big things that has to be decided at the general conference. There's a process to determine that, but in this split, they're going to lay out some steps. Normally, like the Berean church, when they disassociated, the process that they went through there, they had to pay, their apportionments had to be up to date, and they paid a certain, I don't remember the number, but they paid some of their apportionments ahead,
Okay.
and then they had to be sure that their pastor's retirement and health insurance was paid up. So you have to make some money advancements. Now, like this church in Georgia, their annual apportionments were several $1 million because they were the biggest church. So for them to leave, they were going to have to pay several $1 million. And the conference didn't like that because that was going to make a big dent in their apportionment receipts. So the pastor, or the bishop, that's one of the reasons behind the bishop reassigning the pastor. The pastor, after he was reassigned, turned in his credentials to be a Methodist preacher.
He gave it up?
Yeah, well, he's still a preacher, but not in the Methodist church
He changed his
denomination.
denomination.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
Okay.
anyway, that's some of the goings on.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Could it affect our church too?
I say it will. I don't know how,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to affect all the Methodist churches in some way or another.
We'll have to make a decision whether we stay or leave. We go with this one or that one. Wow.
Yeah. So might behoove you to make your thoughts known to the church council, because they're the ones that's going to decide at some point.
Oh, we aren't gonna vote.
I don't know.
Oh, I hope we vote as whole as a church.
I hope we do too.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think we should all have a
I think so
voice.
too.
It should be like a
Yeah.
church conference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, will anybody show up? I don't know about that part.
Mm.
Usually our church conferences where we do the budget and salaries, the only people that shows up is the church council, so it would behoove people to come and voice their opinion
Mm.
on that. So, well, I made it to the second sentence, and then we got carried away there.
Okay. Yeah.
It says here,
Sorry.
no, that's fine. That was a good discussion. Members of a rival religious group are stirring up trouble for you and your community. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
Stirring up trouble. Even the government is making it dangerous for you to remain faithful to the Lord. Have you heard about that lately?
well, that happens in
Mm-hmm.
other parts of the world all the time.
It happens here too.
It happens here too.
Yeah.
It looks like, and I don't know if this is religion or not, but one of the treatment methods for COVID is being denied the red states by the president because they happen to be red states. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with religion or not, but I have a feeling it's all intermingled.
There could be some portion of that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep, we see that. Okay. So now a letter arrives from the most respected Christian leader in the area, and you are asked to read it to the assembled church. Wonder kind of what reception that would have. You know? I bet it could get a little rancorous if some of those people are there stirring up trouble, because, you know, somebody that's stirring up trouble and somebody shows up and starts reading something that maybe goes against what they're proposing or supporting, might get a little there. So, well, it says here, read John's introductory words in chapter 1 through 20. Hopefully you did that. But our first question is the prologue. Chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. So, introduction is salutation, it says here. Verse 1 says, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave to him to show his servants what must soon take place. He made it known by sending his angel to his servant John, who testified to the word of God and to the testimony of Jesus Christ, even to all that he saw. Blessed is the one who reads aloud the words of the prophecy, and blessed are those who hear and who keep what is written in it, for the time is near. All right, our first question here is the first of 7 beatitudes, or blessings, offered in Revelation. The others are 14, 13, 16, 15, 19, 9, 20, verse 6, 22, 7, and 14. Question 1 says here, according to chapter 1, verses 1 through 3, why did God give the revelation? Why did he give the revelation?
Well, to tell the world what is about to happen, and it's going to happen soon.
Right.
That's what it says right there in verse 1. It says, what must soon take place? Okay, the next part is, and I said, well, what else? Is that all? They gave you, a bunch of lines to fill here. Those words don't take up all that space.
Well,
So-
if you write big.
That's where I came part off the wheels. I didn't write big enough. Okay. Well, here's what I said, for whatever it's worth. What must take place? And I said he wants them to read this aloud. Also, the second part of that question is also, what responses does he want its hearers to make? So what response? After you hear this, what's their response? He wants them to read this aloud, those who hear and keep what is written.
Yeah, keeping those things that you've read, for the time is near.
Yeah. So you're going to hear this. He wants you to hear these words, and then he wants those that hear it keep what is written in it. And the writer says, for the time is near. Well, over on our right-hand column it says, for thought and discussion, do you think the first phrase of 1:1 means the revelation from Jesus, the revelation about Jesus, or both? Why? What do you think it is? Is it from Jesus or about?
I think it's both.
Okay.
Because you're being told what is about to happen, and it's not just from an angel. It says which God gave him to show his servants, and him to me, is capitalized. So wouldn't that be Jesus?
Okay. Well, in my translation, which is the New Revised Standard, it says the revelation of Jesus. So what's of? Of is a English teacher. What's
It's
a
a preposition.
preposition? Okay. What other words are prepositions?
Oh, you have a whole list: until, for, after, from, well, in can be one, off can be one.
Okay.
Just all sorts of little words.
Okay. So one of those words you said was from.
Mm-hmm.
So if we substituted, would this make any sense if we substituted the revelation from Jesus
Sure.
Christ?
Yeah.
Would that make sense?
Means
Sure.
he would be the author then.
Mm-hmm.
Or
It's-
he's telling us,
This is his message to us
okay?
to believe.
Well, looking over here in the Wesley study notes, it says here in chapter 1, verse 1, it says, the revelation of Jesus Christ, the title of the entire composition, both belongs to Jesus and reveals information about Jesus previously unavailable to his servant John. So this is new, reveals information about Jesus previously unavailable to his servant John. So we have new information. New information.
This Bible says this apocalypse or revelation came from God through Jesus Christ, whose past, present, and future position and work is the content of the revelation, communicated to John by an angel.
If you think back or look back to the Gospels when Jesus was with his disciples, what was his purpose? Well, he was teaching the disciples what God told him they needed to know, and then from them it would be spread out to everyone on the earth. So I think in Revelation we're seeing that same process here. It's from Jesus, but it also involves Jesus, what things that Jesus did. So it's kind of and about and from. It covers a lot of territory there. It's not like he's parroting back or only parroting back, but he's also involved in. So he's sharing his part of it as well as what our part of it is and what God says is going to happen on that part. Okay. Do you think we handled question 1 there, and also the thought and discussion? I thought that thought and discussion was an important part there. Well, as we move over to page 22, it says here, for further study, watch for sevens in the rest of Revelation. Decide for yourself what symbolism, if any, you think the number 7 has in each case. I think we touched on that last week. Mentioned 7. And the part that 7 says, there's a part, or there's more information here where it talks about the 7 churches in the province of Asia.
What does the number 7 mean about having significance?
Well, looking at this here, it's there's a lot of things in the Bible that have 7 attached to them, and it's it says here the number 7 recurs 52 times in Revelation because of its association with the Sabbath and the 7 days of creation. This number signifies completeness, perfection, and the essence of a thing. That's what it shows there. If you remember the 7, and when God created the earth, 7 days, there were 7 days there. The Sabbath happened on what day? The 7th day. And so there's a lot of sevens. I had forgotten about this. Old Testament sacrifices were done in sevens. So when they sacrificed ox, there were 7 of them sacrificed. The
Right,
goats, 7 of them.
And the bowl judgments, there's 7.
And 7 trumpets and
Right.
all the way through. 7 seals.
7 seals, 7 bowl judgments.
Yeah, there's 7, like it says here, 52 times in Revelation. Here's something I did not know. 7 is the root of the Hebrew word for swearing an oath.
It's the root of that word. Okay.
And so the 7 individual historical churches of Asia may represent for John the complete church of Asia, or the complete church of all generations that needs to hear this message. It may be that all these explanations are true.
So 7 is the, can you say that again?
It signifies completeness,
Yeah,
perfection, and the essence of a thing. Is that what you
the one about, it's the root word.
Oh, 7 is the root of the Hebrew word for swearing an oath.
And there's also with that bit of information, there's something that goes along with swearing an oath.
Yeah.
If you make that oath, don't dare to break it.
Yeah. Oaths were not treated lightly.
Not at all. We see in all throughout several parts of the trumpets, the seals, the bowls.
Uh-huh.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
It's called the wrath of God.
Uh-huh. Well, back up here under greetings and praise, it says the customary way to begin a Greek letter was sender to recipient greetings. John gives this an explicitly Christian form. Keep in mind as you study further passages that the whole of Revelation was originally an urgent letter from a pastor to a struggling flock. So then down below this we have grace and peace. John places the greetings in his letter with an explicitly Christian grace and peace to you. Grace refers to God's presence with the believer that empowers him to live the Christian life. And peace summarizes the blessings that flow from God's presence. And then over on the top of page 23, he who is and who was and who is to come. So we see in verse 4, it says, John to the 7 churches that are in Asia, grace to you, peace from him who is and who was and who is to come. That covers about all the time span that you want to think about. It's like the past, the present, and the future.
That's like on your tombstone,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
from death to life, and the section in between.
Uh-huh. So we got, it covers God. And from the 7 spirits who are before his throne, and from Jesus Christ, the faithful witness, the firstborn of the dead, and the ruler of the kings of the earth. So, well, it says here an adaptation of the name of God made known to Moses at the bush in Exodus 3:14. The Greek translation of the Old Testament rendered this name as I am who I am, and I am he who is. One of the commentary paraphrases that circulated among Jewish congregations expand this to I am he who is and who will be. In Deuteronomy 32:39, this paraphrase reads, I am he who is and who was, and I am he who will be. Thus John is building on a familiar title for God. Yes, this wasn't, for Jewish people, this was not unheard of names. They would be very familiar with these. Remember in the Old Testament, the Jewish people would not spell out God's name. They had the abbreviation Yahweh and just the letters. And they would only do that in very certain times because they felt that God's name was so holy that to mention it or to write it down was not good. It kind of goes, the Amish people object to having their picture taken. Do you know why?
Because they're the image of God.
They see it as a graven image, and they don't want. Remember, what's the Bible say about graven
Not to have
images?
any.
Don't do that. Don't make graven images.
Did not know that about the Amish.
Yeah. So they do not like to have their picture taken.
Yeah, they do not want their picture taken at all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because they see that as a graven image. So.
I didn't know why, but I knew they didn't want their
Yeah,
picture taken.
when we were in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is a big Amish community. It's the largest Amish community in Pennsylvania. We were out driving around the country roads, and we came across this Amish farm, and they had a little building out by the road, and there was a lady in there, and she was selling, an Amish woman. She was selling cookies and cakes and bread and things like that. And so we asked her if we could take a picture of her, and she said no. But it was okay to take a picture of the things
Right, the
that
thing.
she
It's
had,
not her.
just not her. So,
Well, you know that trip we took with Keith and Cherry?
Mhm.
Trying to think, this guy was,
Amish people in that community.
yeah. And there was one that, I mean, he looked like a robust Teddy Roosevelt, big old burly kid, you know.
uh-huh.
He wasn't too old, you could tell, but he had a bit full beard and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a camera around my neck. And he was up there, and I was talking to him, and you know, seemed like everything's okay. I really thought maybe when he talked to us, he did. And I reached for that camera, and he turned his back on me,
Uh-huh.
and that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'm not going to ask if I can take a picture.
No.
And a selfie probably was totally out of the question.
Yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. That's true.
And
On that.
it's-
But they're very, very private. Okay, we're gonna end there. We'll pick up next week on question 2 on page 23
Okay.
and work our way ahead of there. And we got an optional application there that we'll work on.
It always makes me wonder, where it says in the Bible, where it says you'll have no other images before you, no idols, no graven images,
Mm-hmm.
etc. So I always wonder what God thinks about us, like having these pilgrims,
Uh-huh.
or having, well, I have little angels all over the house,
Mhm.
and
Do you worship them?
no, I don't worship them.
Okay, I think that's the essence of that, but at the same time, graven images, as we think about them, the biggest one that comes to mind is what Aaron made while Moses was up on Mount Sinai getting the 10 Commandments. He was down
Golden calf.
Oh, yeah, something
Golden-
to worship.
a golden calf
You
because
make it with that intent, though.
yes,
Right.
There are tens of
Worship it.
thousands or millions, I don't even know the number, of graven images pressed in the country of India primarily.
uh-huh,
You know, they have
Oh,
millions
yeah.
of gods,
yeah,
and they're sitting in homes everywhere.
Oh, dear.
yeah,
They are everywhere. We got 2 or 3 of them in our house. They're very ineffective.
yeah,
Once I realized what that was, I laid the curses on them.
uh-huh,
I'm just waiting. They're gonna just melt.
They're going out.
yeah,
They'll melt.
Okay.
that has happened.
I want to know that when it happens.
I
Yep.
don't know which ones they are. They have those images on them.
Well, let's close with a word of prayer, and then we'll
Okay.
be ready for next week. Father, thank you for this time as we've discussed the beginning, the intro part of Revelation as we continue on. Remind us of this. Also remind us of the part where we think about how this applies to us and how this can help us to have a more Christ-like life and worship, and praising you and glorifying you in all that we say and do.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.